Think back. There was probably someone. Maybe it was a classmate you never really spoke to. Someone you passed in a corridor every day for months. Maybe it was a person you saw once, just once, at a party, on a train, in a coffee shop. And yet, they stayed with you. You replayed conversations you never had. You constructed entire versions of them in your head. What they were like, what they thought about, what it would feel like if they noticed you. You checked to see if they were in the room. You felt something shift when they were, and then maybe it faded. Or maybe it didn't, and you still don't know what to call it. We have a word for it. We call it a crush, but that word is too light, too harmless. It doesn't describe the weight of it, the way it followed you. The way it felt at times, almost involuntary. There's another word. Limerence. And once you know what it actually is, you'll never think about attraction the same way again. In 1979, a psychologist named Dorothy Tenoff published a book called Love and Limerence. And inside it, she described something most people had never seen named before. Tenoff had interviewed hundreds of people about their experiences of intense, romantic feeling. And what she found wasn't what love stories describe. It was something more consuming, more strange. She called it limerence. Limerence is not a crush. It's not love, exactly. It is an involuntary mental state, an obsessive, intrusive preoccupation with another person. The person experiencing it, Tenoff called them the limerent, cannot stop thinking about the object of their limerence, not because they choose to think about them, because the mind won't stop. Here's what it actually looks like. Intrusive thoughts about the person, returning constantly, uninvited. An acute sensitivity to their signals, a glance, a word, a tone of voice that gets analyzed for meaning. Euphoria when there's any sign of reciprocation. Devastation when there isn't. A fantasy life built around them, elaborate, detailed, emotionally vivid. And crucially, this can happen with someone you barely know. That's what Tenoff kept finding. The limerent object didn't need to have done anything particular. Limerence could be triggered by proximity, by a single interaction, sometimes by almost nothing at all. One of her subjects described it like this. It was not that she thought about him. It was that she could not think about him. That distinction matters because it tells you something uncomfortable about where this is coming from. Helen Fisher, a biological anthropologist, spent years scanning the brains of people who described themselves as deeply, obsessively in love. What she found was striking. The brain regions activating were not the ones associated with calm affection. They were the reward circuits, the same systems that activate in addiction. The limerent state, neurologically, looks less like love and more like a compulsion. The mind has locked onto something and built a reward loop around it. Every small signal from the other person becomes a potential hit. Every absence becomes withdrawal, which is why it's so difficult to simply decide to stop. You can't think your way out of a dopamine loop by wanting to, but here's where it gets philosophically interesting, because all of this is happening largely in relation to a person you may not actually know. The person in your head, the one you're replaying, imagining, constructing, that is not them. That is a version of them your mind has built. So who, exactly, are you obsessed with? Tenoff noticed something in her research that most people, in the middle of limerence, refuse to accept. The limerent object is almost always idealized beyond recognition. Their flaws are minimized or ignored. Their ambiguous signals are interpreted generously. Their silences are filled in with qualities the limerent wants them to have. The person being experienced is not the person who exists. It is a projection. And this is where the psychology starts to become philosophy. Because if what you're attached to is a version of someone that you have largely constructed, what does that say about what you're actually looking for? What qualities did your mind project onto them? What did that person represent to you? What part of yourself were you, perhaps, trying to find? Around 385 BC, Plato wrote a dialogue called The Symposium. It's a dinner party, a group of thinkers taking turns to give speeches about the nature of love. And one of the speeches, given by the comic playwright Aristophanes, contains one of the strangest and most beautiful ideas in the history of philosophy. Aristophanes tells a myth. Originally, humans were not as they are now. They were different creatures entirely. Round, with 4 arms, 4 legs, 2 faces, complete in themselves. And the gods, threatened by this power, split them apart. Each person became half of what they once were. And from that moment forward, every human being spends their life searching, not for someone to love, for the other half of themselves. Aristophanes says, when one half finds the other, something extraordinary happens. They don't want to be apart even for a moment. They can't explain why. They just know that this person is it, that without them, something is missing. It's a myth. Aristophanes tells it that way deliberately. But the myth is pointing at something real. Because when you are in limerence, when you are obsessed with someone you barely know, it does feel like recognition. Not attraction to something new, recognition of something already known, as if some part of you already knew them before you met. But here's the uncomfortable question the myth raises. If you are searching for your other half, your missing piece, then what you are really searching for is yourself. The other person is not the destination. They are the mirror. Jungian psychology takes this further. Carl Jung believed the psyche contains parts of itself that remain unacknowledged. Suppressed qualities, unlived possibilities. Parts of who you are that never got to fully exist. He called this material the unconscious. And he noticed something about intense, romantic attraction. Often, the person we fall for carries qualities we have not allowed ourselves to embody. Someone who grew up suppressing their creativity might fall intensely for an artist. Someone who learned to be controlled might be overwhelmed by someone spontaneous and free. Someone who was never allowed to be vulnerable might project tenderness onto another person and mistake it for love. In this reading, limerence is not just attraction, it is a signal. The qualities that feel magnetic in another person are often qualities you are hungry to develop in yourself. The person you are obsessing over is partly a symbol, a shape your own unlived potential has taken in the external world, which means the question limerence is really asking is not, how do I get this person? It's, what part of myself am I looking for? This is the question that tends to make people uncomfortable. If limerence is a projection, if the person in your head is partly a fiction you constructed, does that mean the feeling wasn't real? No, the feeling is entirely real. The neurological intensity is real. The way it reshapes your days and your attention is real. What isn't real is the object as you imagined it. And that distinction is important because once limerence fades, once the idealization starts to crack, people often feel confused. They meet the actual person, the one without the projection layered over them, and they feel nothing. And they wonder, was it ever real? What it was real information about yourself, about what you are searching for, about what you find beautiful, about what parts of yourself still feel incomplete. Limerence is not a mistake. It is the mind doing something, trying to find something in the only way it knows how. The question is whether you listen to what it's telling you.